As my sister and mother sought my help, the events of that night still lingered in my mind, casting an indelible shadow. It is a story of betrayal that is still etched in my memory. Welcome to Bad Boys Channel, where we reveal true adultery stories with unexpected developments. If you find the video interesting, consider subscribing and liking it. Your support really aids the growth of our channel. Now let's embark on the journey into the story. The echo of my mother's voice trembling in the stillness of that night remains etched in my memory. My sister's gaze cut through the silence, her eyes brimming with an unspoken request, the urgency hanging thick in the atmosphere. With conviction, I made my stance clear, sharing my belief that this was nothing short of ridiculous, and so they pressed on, unwavering in their resolve. With unwavering determination, they held on, and in that fleeting instant, I let go. Had I simply turned and walked away, had I decided to exit the room, none of this would have unfolded. Alas, I chose not to. Now, I find myself shouldering the consequences of my choices. There are whispers that some moments nestle in the corners of our memories, timeless and unyielding. Choices we make can steer the ship of our lives onto uncharted waters. And as the sands of time slip through our fingers, the chance to revisit those paths fades into the abyss. 3 years have slipped away since that fateful night. 3 years since I dared to cross a threshold I never thought I would approach. In my mind's eye, I saw myself as a beacon of virtue, a figure of integrity, embodying restraint and wisdom, fully aware of the fine line that separates righteousness from wrongdoing. In the depths of my journey, I have unearthed a profound truth about existence. It is in those moments when you stand at the brink of your endurance, when the heavy cloak of solitude wraps around you so tightly it feels like a shroud, and when the eyes of those you cherish search your very essence, silently urging you to meet their hopes and dreams. At times, the lines blur and the edges fade away. There are times when you become a stranger to yourself, only to awaken to this truth when the chance has faded into the past. Before I share my tale, make sure to subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga for more astonishing true confessions that will leave you speechless. I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced a temptation so powerful, so utterly irresistible, that it changed everything? Those who crossed paths with me in that era would surely recount tales of my unwavering dedication as a husband, a remarkable brother or sister, a son who is unwavering in his dedication. In their eyes, I would have been seen as someone you could always count on, responsible, a man who places his family at the heart of everything he does. Ah, indeed I did. I have always done so. Yet what lay shrouded from their sight, what I kept veiled from everyone, was the deep solitude, the kind that doesn't just hover nearby but takes up residence deep within your very being. It flows into the core of your being. It follows you from one realm to the next, an ever-present shadow that you cannot shake off. Once upon a time, my wife and I found ourselves on separate paths, no longer the couple we once were. In a time long past, we found ourselves wrapped in the tender embrace of love. At the very least, that is what I hold in my heart. Though the details slip away like whispers in the wind, at a certain moment along the path, all things faded into the shadows. Under the same roof, our dialogues flowed on, weaving tales of connection. Alas, the conversations were but fleeting moments, vacant, like two unknown spirits fleetingly crossing paths in a tight passageway. Her days danced with a whirlwind of activity, work, friends. Her world had transformed, casting me to the edges, as though I had faded from the very fabric of her existence. And what about me? I paused my endeavors, comforting myself with the thought that it was merely a chapter in the grand tale of existence. With the passage of time, this is the path that marriage often takes. The passion wanes, the heat drifts into the ether. Your connection transforms, taking on the feel of cohabitance rather than loving companions. Yet that emptiness started to eat away at my essence, and somewhere along the journey, I lost the feeling of being a husband. I found myself drifting away from the essence of what it meant to be a man. In that very instant, she drew near to me, my mother, my brother or sister. Each of them broke in their own special way, each of them longing for something beyond their reach. After what seemed like an eternity, I discovered that someone truly needed me. My mother was a pillar of strength, nurturing us with unwavering dedication through the most formative years of our lives. In the chapters of our early lives, my father chose to leave, drawn away by the allure of a younger companion, a stranger to us all. Perhaps that is the moment when the tale truly unfolded, the chilling grip of solitude's embrace taking hold. In that moment, a deep yearning stirred within her, compelling her to cling to something, anything, that might offer a glimmer of safety amidst the chaos. She kept her vulnerabilities hidden from the world, but I was fortunate enough to catch a glimpse. In those fleeting moments, her hands would quiver, a delicate ballet of anxiety, particularly when she thought she was hidden from view. Her hold on others was steadfast, a frantic effort to keep them from drifting away, just as my father had, and then my sister followed suit. The chosen one. In the grand tapestry of life, one is fated to attain perfection, to embrace a serene existence, and to find a harmonious union without blemish. But life has a way of revealing its mysteries in the most surprising of manners. Her husband was a greater source of trouble than mine, cold and overbearing. A man who trapped you within the walls of your own refuge. In the quiet of the night, she would call to me, her voice a gentle murmur, cautious not to let him hear a sound. She shared with me her feelings of being trapped. She felt as if she were slipping into the shadows, a realization I should have grasped long ago. I should have grasped the essence of her desires. What began as a simple family outing transformed into a journey filled with unexpected twists and turns. A fleeting journey away from the mundane. In a hidden haven embraced by the towering trees, tranquility reigns supreme, alone in a world of silence. Just the three of us, my wife had a remarkable gift for crafting excuses, a talent she showcased time and again. The act of laboring, a gathering just before the clock strikes, a reason to stay a little longer. And for the first time in what feels like an eternity, in their company, I discovered a sense of solitude, just the three of us weaving our own tale. At first glance, it appeared to be just another tale, nothing out of the ordinary. With laughter echoing in the air, we crafted a meal together, savoring each moment as we sipped wine by the warm glow of the crackling fireplace. Yet a mysterious essence hung in the air, an unnamed something that beckoned the imagination. The look my mother gave me, as if she thought I had wandered off into my own realm. The soft caress of my sister's hand resting on my arm, a moment that seemed to linger just a heartbeat too long, and the way the wine loosened our tongues, drawing out secrets we might have otherwise kept buried. Looking back, it seems I should have paid closer attention. The quiver in my mother's voice as she spoke, the intensity of my sister's gaze upon me, created a moment that stretched, lingering just a heartbeat longer than it should have. The air was heavy with silence, charged with an unspoken tension, waiting for a moment that could break it apart. Maybe I should have seen the signs earlier. Maybe I should have stepped in before it all unfolded. And so I held back. And just as I began to comprehend the events that were unfolding, I realized the hour had slipped away from me. There are moments in life when you stand at a crucial crossroads, moments when you sense deep down that one more step will determine your destiny, making it impossible to turn back. The moment I had been waiting for finally came to pass. In that brief instant, a different path could have beckoned to me. Though the option to turn and depart lingered in my mind, I decided against it. And on that fateful night, the very fabric of existence was altered forever. The tale commenced with the wine, or so I craft the story for myself at any rate. Had we only held back from that second bottle, had we opted to savor just one, perhaps the tapestry of events would have woven itself differently. Yet we forged ahead, we kept pouring, we kept sipping. Slowly, the ambiance surrounding us shifted, turning what was intended to be a celebration into something else entirely. Let us raise a toast to the bonds of family. As our journeys intertwined, the last drops of our drinks faded away, and the space that had separated us slowly dissolved. The laughter gradually softened, transforming into a gentle murmur. The conversations ventured into deep waters, and before I knew it, the dialogue had wandered far from the topic of family. I remember my mother sitting across from me, the dancing flames casting a warm glow on the glass she cradled, her fingers wrapped around the stem with a tension that made me worry it might shatter. Her eyes met mine, not just with the warmth of a mother for her child, but with the intensity of a woman looking at a man. At that moment, my sister's voice filled the air. She settled next to me, closer than one might expect. the heat of her presence unmistakably mingling with mine. I caught the slight catch in her breath just before her words slipped into the air. Have you ever felt in the depths of your being that perhaps no one genuinely acknowledges your presence? It was a query that sprang forth from pure naivety. It should have been, at the very least, but an enigmatic presence lingered just beneath the surface. A raw essence, untamed and unpolished. A feeling that twisted and turned deep inside me. I paused before I spoke. I find myself questioning whether I have the capability to achieve that. For the truth of the matter was that she possessed the right viewpoint. I genuinely felt overlooked. For many years I held on to. With a graceful touch, my mother placed her glass down, her fingers tracing the rim as if savoring the moment. As she continued, her voice softened, but an undercurrent of urgency remained, hinting at deeper emotions just below the surface. You give and give, but what is it that you truly gain in return? I swallowed hard, a sudden parched sensation creeping into my throat. This dialogue was not one I desired to partake in, especially not in their company. Gone from this realm. Yet the moment had slipped away, the words hung in the air, caught between us, settling into the empty spaces we had spent our lives trying to ignore. In a fleeting instant, my sister's hand found its way into mine, weaving our fingers together. As I reflect on the events that transpired, a sense of uncertainty washes over me, and I can't help but wonder if the wine played a part in it all. Perhaps it was the feeling that the room had contracted, as if the walls were slowly creeping in. Perhaps it was simply meant to be, her fingers weaving through mine, soft and tender, warm and inviting. I stood my ground, unwavering in my resolve, though perhaps I should have taken a step back. I should have found my voice and stood firm. I should have left that room and never looked back. Nevertheless, I held back. Then, my mother spoke a phrase that sent a shiver racing through my veins. No longer shall you tread this journey alone, for her eyes wandered as the words flowed from her mouth. She cast her eyes upon her. In the cozy ambiance of my sister's home, her eyes were locked onto mine, filled with an unspoken story waiting to unfold. Their message was clear and could not be misinterpreted. Their request was crystal clear, and my heart began to thud fiercely, the sound reverberating in my ears. My hands trembled, a rhythm of uncertainty coursing through them. My thoughts clamored for me to halt this before it spiraled any deeper, yet in a hushed tone, my sister murmured it, so gentle that I nearly missed the sound entirely. Is it truly a fault to long for love? And in the blink of an eye, it happened. All that dwelled within me shattered into a myriad of fragments, and I made a solemn promise to myself that I would never cross that threshold. In that fleeting moment, their words cut through my resolve, laying me bare and exposed. In that moment, a wave of understanding enveloped me, and the journey before me was unmistakably determined. That night, slumber danced just out of reach. As I lay back in bed, my eyes tracing the patterns on the ceiling, the wind gently caressed the cabin walls, blending with the rhythmic pulse of my heartbeat resonating in my ears. I told myself it was just the effect of the drink. We had all partaken a little too liberally, and the words shared around the table were nothing but fleeting mirages. Yet beneath the surface, I sensed the reality woven into that illusion, for in the shadows behind my eyelids, her gaze remained etched in my thoughts. The way my mother's voice wrapped around me felt like a steadfast whisper, one that could not be shaken off. Is it truly a fault to yearn for love? As I pedaled through my thoughts, I found myself caught in a loop, trying to convince myself that perhaps I had misunderstood the circumstances, that their true intentions did not match the narrative I had woven in my mind. Yet deep down, I knew. From the very beginning, I had a sense of awareness that lingered in the background. Once upon a time, there was a soul who believed they were not a bad person. A deep longing stirred within me, a desire to cling to that belief. In the quiet embrace of that night, as I rested in the shadows, the cabin's walls felt as though they were closing in, and I could feel a crack starting to emerge within me. I tried to push it away, to remember who I truly was, to hear my wife's voice resonating in my thoughts, despite the long time since I had last felt its comforting embrace. Amidst the stillness, the only sound that graced my ears was the gentle whisper of my sister. In that moment, I felt the weight of her gaze, a look that suggested I was the answer to a journey she had embarked upon for as long as she could remember. After a long stretch of time, an unfamiliar feeling of being essential enveloped me. A feeling of longing wrapped around me like a warm embrace, What could be more soul-crushing? The next morning brought a sense of enjoyment, and I made a decision to uphold a facade of normalcy. I would set aside the happenings of the night before, treating them as if they were nothing more than fleeting shadows, and pretend that they had never taken place. Upon entering the kitchen, I discovered my sister already there, her lips sealed in quietude at first. She hovered by the counter, cradling a cup of coffee in her hands, her eyes locked onto me as if waiting for a moment to unfold. A silent tension hung in the air, an invisible thread drawing us closer together. I opened my mouth, poised to speak, to let a word escape, but her smile held me captive. For reasons shrouded in mystery, a knot twisted within my stomach. Unmoved, not from revulsion, in a world unlike any other, there was something I chose to keep in the shadows, a mystery left untouched. On that day, our words danced together with a rhythm that had long been absent. In the realm of things best left in silence, regret lingers as thoughts dance through the realm of what could have been. The feeling of ascending next to a person who is oblivious to your existence. She unfolded to me the deep sense of being trapped that surrounded her, and I revealed that my emotions echoed her own. As our mother stepped into the room, she made a deliberate choice to remain silent, allowing the moment to unfold without her interference. She gracefully settled down next to us, and there we found ourselves, the three of us, snug in that cabin, surrounded by the serene quietude that enveloped us. We all find ourselves in the midst of a tale that is gradually revealing itself. In the dim light, we played our parts, feigning ignorance as the tale began to unfold, a mere whisper in the shadows. A hand settled upon my shoulder, its weight lingering in a moment that felt like it could last forever. A laugh that echoed with a disquieting recognition, an embrace that went beyond the simple gesture of holding someone close. It was my mother, tenderly sweeping a strand of hair from my forehead, her fingers lingering gently against my skin. My sister rested her head on my shoulder, letting out a sigh that carried the weight of countless moments leading up to this one. Perhaps I should have pulled away. Still, I held back. I comforted myself with the thought that nothing had occurred and I had done no wrong. Yet that night, sleep danced just out of reach. As I lay there wide awake, my eyes traced the wooden beams that towered above my bed. Memories danced in my mind, each touch, each glance, and every softly spoken word played out like a cherished tale. What could be more soul-crushing? A chill ran through me, not just for what I had done, but for the dark shapes that loomed behind it. A shiver ran through me as I pondered my deepest yearnings. After what seemed like an eternity, the heavy cloak of solitude that had wrapped around me began to lift, replaced by a fear that was both unfamiliar and profound. I sensed the weight of its wrongness. The way their eyes lingered on me, the way their voices rose in earnest supplication. How could I ever say no? And then, on that fateful night, everything unraveled into chaos. In the stillness of the night, an unseen change took place. The air was thick, almost suffocating, pressing down on us like an unseen weight. The air was thick with quietude, a tacit understanding weaving through the atmosphere, casting a profound stillness over the events that were about to unfold. No one dared to voice it. In that quietude, an unvoiced truth lingered, whispering all that was essential to share. We journeyed along a treacherous route, each of us pretending not to see the chasm that awaited beneath us. Yet, deep down, I think we all felt it stirring within us. Our hold was starting to slip away. It revealed itself in the quiet rather than in a surge of intense feeling, not by means of a daring, spontaneous act, yet in a more concise manner, a fate that cannot be escaped. I'm left pondering who might have been the first to spark the movement. Maybe the blame rests with me, or perhaps it was her doing. Maybe it was my mother, watching closely, filled with expectation and nurturing dreams. As the night deepened, my sister and I found ourselves enveloped in a quiet solitude. The wine flowed like a river through the night, a continuous embrace of pleasure. Our mother had withdrawn to her room, or so we told ourselves in whispers. The flames had faded to gentle embers, illuminating the surroundings with a warm red glow in the soft light. In that moment, the only sound that danced through the air was the soft rhythm of our breaths. I should have taken my leave. I should have climbed the stairs, shut the door softly behind me, and allowed myself to drift into sleep. And so, I made the choice to stay. Her gaze held steady as though she were searching for a treasure hidden just out of reach. It was a thought that lingered in my mind. a gift that I questioned my ability to present to her. In that fleeting moment, her voice rose like a whisper carried by the wind, softly hesitant. "This is a path we should not follow." Though her voice trembled with doubt, she stayed near. Neither did I. It soared beyond simple longing. It ventured into a realm of deeper significance, where a greater danger loomed ahead. It spun around the essence of need. There was a deep longing within me, a yearning to be seen, to feel that sweet sensation of being wanted. She yearned for an adventure, a spark of life to break free from the heavy emptiness that had surrounded her for what felt like an eternity. We were two wanderers, chasing a dream that danced just out of reach, a longing we struggled to put into words. In that fleeting moment, it felt as if we were the only souls in existence, adrift in a vast cosmos all our own. Still, the weight of guilt hung in the air. It hung in the air, an unwelcome guest that simply wouldn't take its leave. The voice inside me was crying out, begging for me to stop, to step back. This stands as a gentle nudge that a misstep occurred here. Yet, a different voice, long hidden in the depths of time, whispered an alternative truth. It whispered to me that this was destined to unfold. It had, without a doubt, been leading us to this precise moment in time. There I stood, at a pivotal junction, grappling with the whispers of guidance that beckoned me from different paths. As the first light of a new day breaks, one might sense a subtle change in the atmosphere. However, in the beginning it certainly did not. We carried on as we always do, or at the very least we spun a tale of effort. Still, the look she threw my way from across the kitchen table, the way our mother watched us, maybe just a bit too closely, hinted that she felt the change in the air. It felt as though we were slipping away, losing our hold on the situation. What could be more soul-crushing? A small, daring piece of my essence longed to press on without restraint. It was accompanied by a certain exhilaration, a thrilling, heart-pounding adventure cloaked in enigma, the secretive looks that passed between them. The realization that we were navigating a treacherous route, poised on the brink of a possible fall at any moment, quickened my heartbeat. A blazing warmth danced across my skin, yet beneath the thrill there simmered a quiet unease, a shadow of fear that someone might be watching. That an individual holds wisdom, and even more troubling, the gnawing worry that perhaps I might not care at all. It had moved beyond the boundaries of our secluded realm. As the tale unfolded, keen eyes started to pay attention. The air between us buzzed with an undeniable closeness. Our conversations carried a silent richness, a profound essence lurking just below the surface of our spoken words. My mother watched us with a knowing look, her eyes reflecting a sense of familiarity that hinted at her having witnessed this moment many times before, as though she had been waiting for it to unfold all along. And then, in that fleeting instant, we found ourselves slipping away from solid ground. It was a mistake. A brief moment of distraction. A touch that lingered, extending far beyond its intended moment, and a gaze that clung longer than it should have. A misstep in discernment. And in a heartbeat, we discovered that we were no longer the only keepers of that wisdom. I thought we held the reins of control. I thought we could keep this just between us, a cherished secret of our own. I held the conviction that we possessed the liberty to stop whenever we chose. In a pivotal moment that would change the trajectory of our dialogue, my sister unveiled a truth that transformed the very essence of our exchange. A haunting tale that sent icy tendrils creeping along my spine. A realization dawned upon me. The path of retracing one's steps had vanished from the realm of possibility. In a fleeting instant, everything changes. A pivotal instant where the true impact of your choices reveals itself in undeniable clarity. Regardless of the energy you pour into your endeavors or the comforting words you whisper to yourself, the undeniable reality persists. You cannot bring an end to it. For days, perhaps even weeks, I wove a tale in my mind, convincing myself that I held the reins of my own destiny. We thought we could handle this matter with ease, provided the truth stayed hidden, wrapped in the quiet shadows of silence. What we witnessed was nothing but a fleeting mirage. In that fleeting moment, she spoke the words, "my sibling." Her eyes locked onto mine and her voice danced softly, trembling with emotion. Yet, within her gaze lingered an unsettling depth, a whisper of danger, and she began to speak. "Your return is not necessary," in simple terms for phrases that sent a shiver through my very being. I sought to uncover a spark of laughter in the situation. Though she tried to brush it off, her lips remained unyielding, refusing to form a smile. Her demeanor was one of utmost seriousness. Her hands gripped the fabric of my shirt, knuckles white and taut. "Stay," she whispered gently. By our side. In that moment, a wave of understanding enveloped me. This had moved beyond simple mistake. This was nothing short of remarkable, a circumstance from which I found myself unable to escape. Perhaps indeed, maybe I hesitated to walk away. We remained oblivious to the sound of the footsteps. Maybe we did, but we decided to turn a blind eye to them. Perhaps we were so caught up in our own reality, our own illusions, that we overlooked the truth of our shared existence until that moment had quietly passed us by. Until my mother's voice cut through the silence with sharp clarity. "Ah, so you have come to your conclusion." I turned, my heart racing wildly in my chest. She paused at the entrance, caught in a moment of hesitation, watching, predicting. And the look in her eyes. It was not just a surprise, it was an emotion that transcended simple anger. It was nothing short of extraordinary. In a moment of heightened tension, I braced myself for the sound of her voice breaking through the silence, to cast shadows of blame upon us, to obstruct our journey, yet she opted against it. She stood there, unmoving, as if time itself had paused around her. With keen eyes, she drew closer and shared her secret in a hushed tone. This was destined to be my time to shine. The chamber swayed, as though the ground beneath my feet had been wrenched away in a tumultuous upheaval. I was convinced that I had misunderstood her. Once more she spoke those words, a moment that was intended for me, not for her. In that moment, a light flickered in my mind, illuminating the path ahead. She, too, found herself wrapped in a tapestry of anticipation, the weight of her recent words hanging like a delicate mist in the air. It swept over me like a mighty wave, engulfing me in a deep and unfathomable darkness. Maybe, just maybe, I caught a glimpse of the essence. Maybe I had captured the very essence from the very beginning. Perhaps that was the most agonizing part, for in that instant, as she moved closer, as she reached out her hand, as her fingertips trembled against my skin, I stood my ground with unwavering resolve. I should have run away. It would have been wise to turn that cabin to cinders before letting this tale take shape. Yet I held back, and as the sun set, everything slipped away. In a moment of reflection, I realized I had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed, and deep down, I sensed it all along. The air around me changed, a quiet but unmistakable shift that wrapped itself around my being. As my sister turned her eyes away from me, much like our mother did, she stood there quiet and watchful, as if she had claimed a triumph. Regret ought to have enveloped me. I should have felt a wave of fear, but what truly haunted me was the most unsettling part. The element that lingers in my mind, casting shadows long after the sun is set? I did not. At this time, the answer is no. I thought that was the peak of my troubles, the moment that was meant to break me apart. Alas, I discovered that I was in error, for it is the genuine terror, a genuine terror that was just beginning to reveal itself. I was certain I could handle it. I held on to the hope that we could keep this as our hidden tale, that by acting as if all remained the same, by carrying on as though nothing had occurred, it would slowly fade away, disappearing act. But secrets like these have a way of clinging to the shadows, intensifying as the sands of time slip through our fingers. They thrive and blossom. Yet no matter how hard you try to hide them, they always seem to find a way to rise to the surface. The following morning, a palpable sense of detachment lingered in the air. The ambiance inside the cabin had transformed, taking on a weightier presence. Heavier. The walls, having witnessed our every move, now seemed to breathe those moments back into the air, a silent echo of what had transpired between us. Not in a straightforward way. Yet I felt it in the way my sister averted her eyes, in the way my mother hovered just a touch too close, watching intently. Ever watchful. I comforted myself with the thought that it was just a creation of my imagination, a mere illusion spun within the confines of my mind. It was in that moment that the missteps started to reveal themselves. At first, it was the subtle nuances that drew me in, like the fleeting touch of my sister's hand against mine at the breakfast table, holding on for just a heartbeat longer than one might expect. The way my mother spoke to me had taken on a different tone, one that felt transformed. There was an almost overwhelming force in the way I flinched at the sound of my wife's voice, as if she had an extraordinary knack for sensing the guilt intricately stitched into my silence. I comforted myself with the thought that no one was in the know. It was a time when no one could piece together the scattered remnants, yet, in that very instant, the first crack appeared. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the evening meal became the backdrop for an unfolding tale. In a simple yet meaningful gathering, my mother, my sister, and I found ourselves seated around the table, sharing our thoughts and stories. With a calm demeanor and a steady gaze, my mother looked between us and began to speak. In recent times, the bond between you has deepened and a hush has settled over the space around you. The fork in my sister's hand danced against her plate, a sudden sound slicing through the stillness of the room. The cadence of my heartbeat resonated in my ears, and I released a weary chuckle. I summoned the courage to speak a word, any word, with the hope of weaving it into a playful tale. But my sister, she held her tongue, and my mother offered a gentle smile. In that fleeting moment, it became clear to me that this was a memory woven into the very fabric of our existence, one we could never simply dismiss. We stood watch over something deeply significant, far beyond simple murmurs. We found ourselves deep within its grasp, and it was only a matter of time before it would spell disaster for everything in its wake. It was my beloved partner who first noticed it. She felt a whisper of something intangible, a sensation that danced just beyond her grasp, much like the way I found myself led astray. In that fleeting instant, I held my breath, contemplating my reply to her. The phone rested in my palm, its heaviness a silent testament to the message I had no right to receive, the seconds dragging on in an uneasy stillness before I mustered the courage to reply. On a fateful night, she faced me head-on. Is there another being lurking in the shadows? In that fleeting moment, a brief and harrowing second, I stood at the precipice of unveiling all my secrets to her. Not driven by a yearning to confess, but rather by a longing to break free. Ah, but my mother. Fear was but a whisper in the wind for her. She moved through the world as if she had everything to gain and nothing to lose. In reality, she acted as if she held one within her grasp. Her gaze was sharp, examining my every action, every word, every gesture, as though she were waiting for something, as if I were under a careful examination. And then, on a night steeped in destiny, she spoke words that resonate in my thoughts, over and over again. She leaned in, her voice soft and inviting, and said, "Welcome to the fold. The path ahead is set, and there's no way to retreat." And the haunting truth. A piece of my essence clung to her words. As I drifted away from the person I used to be, I had become a being of a completely new essence. A strange presence lingered, heavy with the burden of guilt, as if it should have been suffocating. It should have broken me into pieces. Yet it remained concealed, resting deep within, shrouded by the heavy cloak of shame. Ending it felt like a difficult choice to make. It appears to me that they were conscious of it, which might shed light on why the invitation was never extended to me. We thought we were in control. I held on to the hope that we could steer this ship with steady hands, convinced that we were treading carefully along the path. In that very moment, a revelation unfolded, prompting us to ponder what brought us here. Every day, I find myself lost in thought over that very question. What journey brought me to be the person I am today? How did I let it come to this moment? There was a time when I held the conviction that I had a gift. I held steadfast to my principles and ethics. I understood the difference between what is right and what is wrong. Yet, in this very instant, I find myself pondering the core of my being. There are nights when I find myself stirring from slumber, heart racing, engulfed in a tide of regret. In the realm of my dreams, her visage appears, a hauntingly beautiful presence that lingers in the shadows of my subconscious. The way she gazed at me, untainted by doubt, before the shadows of suspicion began to seep into her eyes like a slow, insidious poison. I watch my sister's hands tremble as they reach out to me, as if I were the only light in her world. I gaze upon my mother's smile, a knowing and contented look, as though she had envisioned all of this long before I ever could. And the most unsettling part, it dances in the corners of my mind. They weave through the fabric of my dreams, captivating and elusive. Each morning, the ache of our past connection whispers to me, a familiar visitor I cannot shake off. Was there any worth to it? That question has danced through my thoughts time and again. I often feel a deep desire to express a straightforward no. Ah, if I could weave a tale where I reclaim each fleeting moment, given the chance, I would journey back to that very first night in the cabin. I would sweep away every whispered word, every secret glance, and every precious instant when we let the boundaries dissolve into the shadows. I certainly would, but what is the truth behind it all? In truth, I find myself in a state of uncertainty. What we shared was a tale woven with shadows, a narrative steeped in mystery and complexity. It was, at once, the most vibrant experience I have ever had, and that very quality lingers in my mind, stealing away my sleep. If fate were to grant me the chance to experience it all once more, I would seize that moment with open arms and a full heart. I'm not sure if I can restrain myself. I have pondered the notion of sharing my emotions. I've often envisioned the moment when I would take my wife by the hand, look into her eyes with sincerity, and reveal all the truths that linger in the depths of my heart. I have pondered the sight of her face twisting with disgust, sadness, and hostility. I find myself weaving tales of her possible actions. Would she release a wail? Shall we shed a tear? Would she walk away? Or would she stay just a moment longer to wound me deeply? Yet, there lies another layer of my existence. The whispering fragment, hidden away, serves as a reminder that there's no reason to burn away the remnants of my being. The part that declares no one ever needs to be in the know. Perhaps there is a glimmer of truth in that notion. Maybe there's a path for me to embrace this concealed reality. Perhaps I shall carry it with me until the very end of my journey. In that very instant, the phone erupted with an urgent chime. The hour had slipped into the late evening. Beside me, my wife lay in a tranquil sleep, her breath a soft melody, slow and steady, a reflection of the trust she places in me. I almost held back from replying. I should have let it slip by unnoticed. In that moment, an irresistible pull guided my response, and so I answered. Her voice echoed softly, weaving its way through the line. She holds no ties of sisterhood, nor does she bear the role of a mother. Once upon a time, there was another individual. A figure of wisdom emerged, just as I thought the journey had reached its conclusion. It dawned on me that this was just the beginning of a much larger tale. The ending eludes me, and I find myself pondering whether I shall keep running from it. Or perhaps, one fateful day, the weight of this secret will become too much to bear. Yet one truth I cling to is that I cannot possibly be the only one who feels this way. Surely I am not the only one who has stood at the edge of the forbidden, feeling the thrill of taking that bold step beyond the boundary. Pray share with me the steps you would have chosen to embark upon. Imagine, if you will, standing at a crossroads, caught in the intricate dance of guilt and desire, loyalty and temptation. In such a moment, would you have the strength to turn away? Or might you have walked the same road I took? I carefully examined every single comment, every tale, every unfolding moment. Come, let us embark on a journey together. Maybe, just maybe. This journey is one I weave together with others. If you desire more narratives of this kind, more truths that linger unexpressed by many, then share your reflections. Come along with us on this journey. This narrative of treachery is truly remarkable. There is a wealth of tales I long to unfold for you. In the quiet embrace of solitude, one finds the courage to embark on journeys once left unexplored. It captures the core of your existence, the foundations you thought were unshakable, and breaks them into countless pieces. It whispers gently to you, hinting that the limitations have faded away. In that singular instant, with a mere brush of fingers, a crucial choice is made, yet it will not change the trajectory of all that is to come. Yet that is not the whole story. Owing to some unforeseen missteps, some mistakes linger, forever etched in time. Be mindful of what you choose to let go of, because of certain temptations. Some temptations call for a sacrifice like no other.